Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome. My name is Dr. John Taborn, and I am a member of the Career Counseling and Pre-Professional Advising Committee with the National Institutes of Health in our Office of Intramural Training and Education program. We want to welcome you today. I'd like to welcome you today to our program called Academic Post-Bac Programs, What's Available and Why Complete One. And we hope today that you'll learn about that from several of our programs that we have represented, and also a little bit about what a Post-Bac program is and why you might want to consider one today. Why are we doing the panel? Well, we know that for many of applicants who are considering applying to graduate, which are PhD programs or masters, but also professional school programs, which will include medical and other programs, may need to or desire to or have been recommended to complete a Post-Bac program. But sometimes we don't know what those are because you're thinking maybe I'll just go right to grad school. So that's why we're doing the program today. For many of you, we're also thinking about what might you do during a gap year or what I call bridge years. And bridge years, in my opinion, are the years in between when after you graduate with your bachelor's degree, which is why they're called post-baccalaureate programs. That usually will have a bachelor's degree. And when you start and apply and start a professional or graduate program, I call them bridges. And under each one, there will be different pillars of different areas that you need to develop, including education or training or testing and things like that. And so your bridge is strong while you go into them. You want to make sure it's strong as possible. And that's where a post-bac program may help you complete and strengthen the pillars on your bridge to get there. In general, what are post-bac programs? And like I mentioned, they usually are designed to be during those years. Oh, by the way, before I go into that too, I wanted to say, some of you may not be also applying to graduate school right out of your bachelor's degree. So sometimes you think the graduate years, the gap years between graduate and when you apply, but some of you may have been on other tracks in your life. You may have started families, you may have been in the military, you may have been in other careers, and you're making a decision to go into these programs. And so as you're doing and working with pre-med advisors or you're considering it, these might come up and be valuable to you. And as mentioned, post-bac programs happen after your bachelor's degree usually, and they're designed to support the transition to professional school. It may involve a variety of things: coursework, shadowing, internships, research, test prep, a variety of different things. And so when you're listening to our panelists today who are here, they might discuss some of these kinds of things, and there are a variety of different kinds. I also want to say one last thing as we get started. There are different types of post-bacs. In general, a lot of the post-bac programs are under the AAMC.org, which is the American Medical College. You'll look under there and you might see, preparing for medical school, to say post-bac programs. Other professional organizations may have them, or you may need to look at so if you're going to dentistry or other programs, if you're looking at PhD programs, they may have them as part of the graduate programs, but that's where you might find them. There are several different kinds that I'll just mention, and they'll represent a lot of what we're talking about today. Some are called academic or record enhancers. That might be if you need to get prerequisites to enter, or you need to raise your GPA, like many that are applying to professional schools need to take additional science courses to raise their science GPA. Some are career changers, like if you're in a career that's not related to what you're going into and you want to move into that, it's a way that you might look into that. Some are designed around for underrepresented in the particular profession, underrepresented populations, or also economically or educationally disadvantaged. And they might also have something involved in, like I mentioned before, with test preparation, or they may have mentoring or shadowing involved. And some of them may end in graduate degrees, like a master's degree. So, and some of them, the programs, they might have a variety of those that you're doing in one program. So I'm going to stop today and we kind of get more into our program, but I just wanted you all to know a little bit about them. And then you can do some more work with your pre-med advisors or your pre-health advisors or career counselors as you're moving into this. So I know I said a lot, but now we will move into our panel today. We have a distinguished panelist today. And usually if you were all here, I'd say, let's welcome our panelists and give them a round of applause. And, but you can still do that if you'd like. Okay. First of all, what I'm going to do is think we'll start with our panelists who are from representing University of Virginia, because one may have to leave a little bit early, and we want to thank all of our panelists for taking time out today to do the recording. But let's start with Susan Salko, and then we'll go to each one. And the question I have for you right now is if you please introduce yourself and which program or programs you represent today.
Okay. I'm Susan Salko. I'm representing the UVA Post-Bac Pre-Med program, which is a career changer program.
Okay, thank you. And let's go to Jillian.
Sure. I am Jillian Golashevsky. I'm also with UVA's Post-Bac Pre-Med program. I'm the assistant director to the program with Susan.
Okay, thank you both from University of Virginia. Let's move on to Monica Jost.
Hi, I'm Monica Jost, and I direct the Division of Pre-Med Pre-Health Programs at the College of Medicine of Drexel University. So we have 6 different post-bac programs that are all combined in this division. And 5 of those are master's programs, so they're what we would classify as record enhancer programs. And then 1 program is an undergraduate certificate program, which is for career changers, and that's an evening program. And we actually started out, it's probably now almost 4 decades ago, with 1 program that we call now the Intensive Medical Science Program, which is what's classified as a special master's, where students take medical school coursework. And then over the years, we added on additional programs to accommodate students from different backgrounds, different educational preparation, different health career goals. So that's how we developed additional master's programs. And you mentioned a program earlier for underrepresented students and students that are socioeconomically disadvantaged. So we offer 1 of those. It's called the Drexel Pathway to Medical School program. And that's a very important tool for our medical school to increase their diversity. And then we offer 2 programs that are a little bit the variation of our original program. 1 has a year of research added on, called Medical Science, and then we have 1 that is for students who come in a little weaker. They get 1 year of sort of preparatory coursework where they're being built up. They get Mcat Prep, they get graduate education, a little bit of advanced undergraduate education to help boost their math science GPA, and then for their 2nd year, they move into the medical school type coursework. And then lastly, the last master's program is called Interdisciplinary Health Sciences. That is for students who have a variety of career goals. Some do want to go to allopathic or osteopathic medical school, but it's also for students who want to go to dental school, become physician's assistants, physical therapists, and so on. So it's kind of complex, and we have on our website, there's a nice table where students can look up those different programs and who they're for.
Okay, thank you, Monica. I think what we'll do is we'll move on to Bill and just introduce yourself and say what programs that you have representing, please. Joseph.
Okay, great. I'm Bill Hahn. I'm director of the George Squared program. I'm here representing a whole portfolio of programs that are at Georgetown, special master's program in physiology, the general master's of physiology, and the advanced biomedical sciences graduate certificate program.
Okay, thank you very much. And then let's go to Frederick, please. Yes.
Thank you. I'm Fred Ferrara. I'm at Baylor College of Medicine, and I'm representing diversity programs from the school. And we have 2 post-bac programs. One is Transform Post-Bac Pre-Med Academy that focuses on students who are interested to improve their programs and get their academics and research to get to medical school. And another one's called a PrEP program, a post-bac research education program that trains individuals to be able to get to graduate school.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. Thank you. And last but not least, of course, we have Gwyneth Offner. So please go ahead.
Hi, so I direct the Master's in Medical Science program at Boston University School of Medicine. Like several programs discussed before, it's a special master's program designed primarily for students who want to attend medical school. Occasionally we have students interested in other health professions, but it's it's primarily a record enhancer program for medical school.
Okay. Thank you very much for your introductions. My next question, some of you have started with that a little bit, but I still want to give each of you a little bit more opportunity to say a little bit about it. The next question is, can you please provide a brief summary of your program or programs and how it prepares participants for medical or graduate schools? Some of you have already done that, but if you, I'm going to go ahead and go through the program group of you anyway, and if you want to say a little bit more about it, that's fine. Why don't we kind of go in the same order? Why don't we start with Susan and Jillian, and then if I can remember the order, we'll go in the same order.
Okay. Well, as I mentioned before, ours is a career changer program, but it is primarily directed to students who want to go to medical school. Like when it says, sometimes we'll have somebody interested in another health profession, and on a case-by-case basis, we would consider them. But the coursework in the curriculum in our program is basically the basic prerequisites for medical school. So you have your general chemistry, your organic chemistry, your biochemistry, and then you have the general biology and physics. In addition, we have a course that runs throughout the year, U.S. healthcare course, which is taught by our medical advisor, Dr. Powers, who has an MD and a PhD. Mm-hmm. And that helps students be prepared for what they're about to enter, but also in the interviewing process to medical school. We facilitate opportunities to do clinical volunteering and shadowing opportunities. Mm-hmm. Jillian and I are both advisors in terms of helping students get prepared for the application process. Mm-hmm. And we do offer Mcat Prep materials throughout the year.
Okay. All right. Thank you. And then I'm going to go to Jillian to see if you have anything you want to add. I'd like to.
No, I think Susan covered it pretty well. Again, we're a career changer program, so we're really looking for students that already have a strong undergraduate GPA, but are just looking to get those pre-medical prerequisite courses in order to be eligible to apply to medical school.
Okay. Thank you very much. I think we went to Monica last time.
Yeah, I mentioned a few things already.
Yeah, you did. Mm-hmm.
The masters, except the interdisciplinary one, targets primarily students who would like to go to medical school, and then the more flexible program targets students who want to go to other health professions. And I did mention our program for underrepresented minority and socioeconomically disadvantaged students. And our career changer is also similar, except that it's run in the evening. So it's for people who are working during the day, and then they do their work in the evening.
Okay. All righty. All right. Thank you very much. I think we went to Bill Hunt. Anything you'd like to add? Mm-hmm.
Sure. So as with almost every school, both Georgetown and George Mason have career changer programs. I won't dwell on those, but I'm happy to answer any questions about them. The core programs that we have are the Special Masters in Physiology, which has been around for about 45 years, and so the original SMP, if you will. The idea there is that students have a compromised undergraduate record, need to work on their study skills, but they have a relatively strong MCAT score. So that's that population. As an alternate to that for students who do not have a strong MCAT score, the ABS, Advanced Biomedical Sciences Graduate Certificate, which is part of the partnership between Georgetown and George Mason universities, mm-hmm. takes students in, includes test preparation in the program, but also very heavily works on study skill development early on in the program. And that's really the distinguishing feature there, is the high touch connection to enhancing the educational foundation to help students prepare for medical or dental school. We help with the application process. We help with a range of soft skills and other components that are necessary for success in medicine or dentistry.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. Let's see, we went to Frederick.
Thank you. Yeah. So both programs that we have, these Post-Bac programs, are academic record improvement programs. The TPP, Transform Post-Bac Pre-Med Academy program, is really focused on health disparities. Mm-hmm. And there is the standard review of biological, physical, and social sciences coursework to improve their knowledge base so that when they take the MCAT, they will have a better success. and also it allows them to have academic workshops, career development counseling, introduction to research, the health disparities, and they all work on a health equity research project, of which they present in a health disparities conference in the Texas Medical Center. And then they also do clinical observerships and some leadership skills as well. So,
wow.
And also outreach to the community. The second program, the PrEP program, Post-Bac Research Education Program, focuses on research. And so they come in to have develop some rigorous research skills. They also have workshops on success, to be able to be successful, to write a personal statement, research statement, and have mentoring and peer mentoring and counseling from faculty to learn to be a graduate student effectively in a rigorous research environment.
Mm-hmm.
With research on the stat side, many programs have dropped the GRE, so we give it as an option to take the GRE prep program, but otherwise most of them don't take it. And other than that, they do 75% research, remaining doing education skills improvements.
Okay. Yeah, I think this. I'm so excited about the diversity of programs that we have. That you all have as a group together, as well as individually within your university. Okay, go ahead to the next person, Gwyneth Offner.
Yes, so our program can be completed in either 1 or 2 years. All the coursework is done in the first 9 months, and it's a mix of medical school and graduate school level courses. Students can opt to take the second year of the program and really enhance components that are missing in their medical school application, whether it be research or clinical opportunities. So it's a very flexible second year where students don't have to physically be in Boston. Some students apply to medical school before the program. Many will wait and either take or retake the MCAT after the year of coursework, so that we offer optional MCAT prep materials that students can refresh their physics and Gen Chem knowledge before they actually take it. A thesis is required, and that can be either a research-based or a literature-based thesis.
For both programs?
It's one program, but
it's one program. I'm sorry, not for both. Okay, for one program thesis. Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Oh, I didn't know that part. That's important to know. Okay, thank you. So thanks for everybody again. Let's move on to the next question. What are you looking for in an applicant, and what makes a strong applicant?
So we're looking for students who have a solid undergraduate or master's degree background. It's typically in the social sciences and humanities, but we also have some students who may have done engineering or some science in their backgrounds, but primarily somebody who has not had those science courses. We're looking for people who have strong standardized exam scores. Mm-hmm. So those could be back from their high school ACTs, SATs, or if a student has been out for quite a long time, they could take the GRE, and we would accept those as entrance prerequisites. And we just want to make sure that they're interested in going to medical school, not to any of the other health professions, because we only offer the basic prerequisites, and a lot of the other health professions require additional coursework that's not provided in our program. Mm-hmm. I didn't mention earlier that we are a cohort program, so our students primarily take all of the courses together throughout the year, and so we're looking for those who would want to be in a collaborative environment and to be working with each other, not against each other.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, thank you. Anything you would like to add?
Sure. And another note about our program, it is an 11-month program. So our students begin in June, and then they would end the program the following May, take the MCAT, and then go into the application process. So it is a full-time endeavor. They take 3 lab sciences at a time, so very intensive. But all of the classes are taken with faculty who teach in the College of Arts and Sciences at the University of Virginia. But the majority of our courses are post-bac only. So they're only in lecture with other post-bac students who are in the cohort like Susan described. The only exception to that is the general biology courses where they will be with the undergraduate population at UVA. But we do coordinate with the biology professor during the fall semester to have a post-bac only discussion so that our students are getting that one-on-one time with their professor to ask any additional questions.
And with your program, if they're in 11 months, do you provide any of the advising to help them with their application materials and interviewing before they apply? Yeah.
That's primarily what Jillian and I do. Yeah, it's our favorite part of the program.
Okay, I'll make sure we get that in there.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you for reminding us. Yes,
okay.
we work with students to prepare their experiences section. We personally coach them in terms of the personal statement, school lists, mock interviewing. Susan and I both have pretty extensive medical school admissions backgrounds as well as advising backgrounds. So yes, that is, like she said, our favorite part of the program.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, and we'll move to Monica.
Yeah, thanks for mentioning that, the advising. I think that's
Sure.
probably my favorite part.
That's what I do.
My other colleagues would share that. So, of course, that's a big part of any post-bac programs for any student who comes in. I mean, for us, since we have several programs, we have to be careful that we select the appropriate program for each student. The Drexel Pathway Program for Underrepresented Minorities, obviously, that's looking for students who are underrepresented or had socioeconomic barriers. So that's actually reviewed by the medical school admissions because they get a conditional acceptance. And it really, they do a very holistic approach in that they really look at the entire story of a student. So they don't have any cutoffs in terms of MCAT or GPA, but they really look at each student individually.
Okay.
For our other programs, I mean, generally, if a student is strong, they might be able to get by with our one-year program, the intensive medical science. But for those students, we would also like them to have a competitive MCAT score. And the 1 year is very intense because it's medical school type coursework. So there is not really time to do much clinical exposure or much volunteering. So that's something we verify and we discuss it with the students. For the other programs, the 2-year programs, it depends if the students are interested in research. They can do the 2-year research program if they are strong, where they do 1 year medical school type coursework and then 1 year of intensive research. For students that are a little bit weaker, we would like them to have at least all their prerequisites finished. They don't have to have an MCAT because the preparation is part of the program. Those 2 years also give them opportunities to work on other aspects of the application. So they obviously don't have to come in as a complete package because then they would need a post-bac, right? But they should have commitment to medicine, right? And they should have some strength indicated in their portfolio. And for our non-cohort-based program, the more flexible interdisciplinary health sciences program, that really depends on what the students, what direction they would like to go. So a lot of students don't know exactly what they want to do, so they get some coursework and that helps to shape their career goal. They get exposed to various career development seminars and things of that nature to help them figure this out.
Okay.
And lastly, the career changers. I mean, we've seen applicants from all walks of life. I mean, we've had lawyers, we've had engineers, so it's very different, as long as they have a strong undergraduate in their previous field.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, there's a lot of different programs within Drexel right there. So I think let's move on to Bill.
Okay. So
and I think the question I was asking was a little like, what are you looking for in an applicant? What makes strong application? Yeah.
Sure. So the key thing is, are we able to help you? We want to look at your full record and see that what you have is something that we can help you build upon. So we cannot give you extensive research experience alone, but we can incorporate research into the portfolio, for example. But most importantly, what we're looking for is a student who has that background, that experience on the extracurricular level, volunteer work, clinical experience, has that academic potential. We see something in the record where our classic student was strong in high school, went to college, and got slammed. So we're trying to figure out what is it that went wrong and how can we help you recover that ability and potential. So we ask the students reflect on their undergraduate experience. An important part of our application review is the student taking ownership of what went wrong. Sometimes it's within their control, sometimes it's not. But in many cases, we can see through that and determine whether or not we can help the student if they're showing that commitment to hard work and discipline to move themselves forward. In the Special Masters of Physiology program, there we need to see advancement in the form of an MCAT score, in the form of a little more advancement in terms of undergraduate GPA, a slightly more advanced applicant who's not quite ready for medical school but close. For the George Square program, the ABS certificate, there we tend to work with students who are a little further behind and need a little bit of additional help. In all cases, we work on as I mentioned, the soft skills like interview skills. We do mock interviews. We work with students to see can they communicate verbally in a manner that's professional and appropriate for their level of development. We want to see that they have an awareness of the field, the profession they're asking to get into. It's a very, it's the overused term of holistic review. We do conduct a very extensive review.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. And let's go to Frederick and then Gwyneth.
I would like to reiterate everything that Bill just said, because that's exactly what all our programs really do. I would emphasize for our TPP program, the Pre-Med Academy program, again, it's holistic. We're looking for what we can assist the student to be able to improve themselves. We use health disparities as a focus research area for them to have something under their belt that they've done. They all are required to and do complete a project such that they can present a poster at this conference each year. So they have that, they have the outreach activities, and also to shadow a clinician of their choosing, of their field of interests, and then also have ability to be able to get a better MCAT score, right? So those are the things that we try with the TPP. With respect to and it is a one-year program, some of whom have, with a possibility of having a second year as well.
Okay.
For the prep program, that is only a one-year program. And their goal is to get into a rigorous research environment, graduate school. And again, it's interdisciplinary and as such, each year we have students that are focused on neuroscience, on infectious diseases this year, and on cancer biology or immunology. So there's diversity, and so they match up to faculty with those research interests. And we then need to counsel them, lots of counseling and discussions about how they can focus their personal statement and research statements on the direction that they want to achieve. Again, applying for neuroscience graduate programs are very rigorous, one of the most rigorous around the country, and hence, again, they need to be able to get really good research and therefore improve their chances to be getting into those programs. Again, everything is focused along improving their presentation of their application towards the programs of choice.
Sure.
I'll leave it there.
Okay, thank you. And Gwyneth.
So Bill said a lot of what I was planning to say. And that's my descriptor when I'm talking to people is we are looking for students who are almost ready to apply to medical school. So important parts of the application are the personal statement, again, to take ownership of past academic problems.
Okay.
The letters of recommendation are very important. It's not helpful to have a professor that had 200 students just say, she was here and she got a B.
Okay.
So I really look at the letters very, very carefully because the program is really built on having collaborative students learn from one another as well as from us, and us to learn from them. And so we really want students who are going to engage with what's coming. The other thing is an upward trend in GPA. I mean, if someone has C's into their senior year, I don't think they're ready for a special master's program.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of things that we look at. And again, while we would like to see them have participated in research and clinical work and service, I don't want it to look like a set of check boxes. I really want passion for something to come through when I read that application, and just know that person is a good fit for the program.
Okay. You mentioned something that I was just going to, maybe a couple of you want to comment on, is what I'm thinking about what makes it strong. Maybe you can put it in this next question, eligibility for the program, but I'm thinking about something you had mentioned, Gwyneth, about, a letter from a recommendation letter. If they just say a B, is there something you'd like to have you're looking for in a letter or in the personal statement that kind of tips you off that this would be a good match for your program? So the next question has to do with what is any eligibility, and what might be something that you give an example of something so our audience who are listening to this could have an idea of what it might sound like. It sounds good to you. We can just kind of start with Susan and Jillian again.
I'll start with the eligibility, and I'll let Jillian go into the personal statement part. That's my favorite. Like I said earlier, we need standardized exam scores. We have all of our students have bachelor's degrees prior to coming into the program. We strongly recommend that students have taken courses that they would need in order to be prepared for the MCAT, like psych and soc, or some math, statistics background. And we often get the question about whether international students are eligible for our program, which they are. And so, not that you have to be an international student, but that yes, we do accept international students into the program.
Okay. Go ahead, Jillian.
And we don't necessarily quantify having clinical experience, but again, we need to know that they know what they're getting themselves into as they pursue a career in medicine. And so some level of shadowing, volunteering, anything that exposes them to what it might be like to be a physician or to work in the healthcare field. We've had students who have worked at Epic, the electronic health medical record system. We've had them had informational interviews, lots of informational interviews with physicians, working in physical therapy offices, anything that helps them understand what this field might look like.
Okay.
We want to know why they want to be a doctor over any of the other health professions that are out there. And like Susan had mentioned in an earlier response, we really are looking for a small but collaborative learning environment. So we only accept 30 to 35 students into each cohort. As she mentioned, they move through all their classes at the same time. And so we're really looking for students that want to be a part of this small experience, this tight-knit experience, and help one another move through this. We really feel as though we have the best of both worlds because they are getting somewhat of that high-touch, maybe liberal arts experience, but at a major state university. And so I think those are some of the more soft skills that we're looking for from our students.
Okay, thank you. Monica.
Yeah, I think I can echo what a lot have said here.
Okay.
That I mean, it's not just a matter of metrics. I mean, we have certain, of course, like every program, we have certain entry criteria which vary a little bit by program, but we do try to review everybody holistically, and their personal story is very important with that. So to give you an example, we have, for one of our programs, we like to see a math science GPA of 2.9. Then we have an applicant who had a major family tragedy during their undergraduate education. The parent got ill and passed away. And as long as that sort of matches with the overall story, their letters of recommendation and everything they do, and we see that there is some strength, that is actually a great applicant. And actually that turned out to be a fantastic applicant who thrived in the program. So I think it's important that the applicants take the process seriously, and really try to tell their story in personal statement and everything else. And again, that the letters match whatever their story is.
Okay.
Yeah. So for the Drexel Pathway program, there's actually a separate essay where they explain, how their what the disadvantage was like and what the hardships they faced, and that's usually a very important piece for their application.
Okay.
In terms of metrics, we have the two programs that offer Mcat Prep, so they don't have to have an Mcat. And in fact, when we talk with our applicants and they say, "Well, I want to take an Mcat so I can get maybe get in a different program," we try to counsel them. Is it a good time? Are you ready? And so we try to take that into account as well.
Okay. Thank you very much. Bill, anything you'd like to add relating to eligibility or what you're looking for?
Sure. So there's a stated minimum 3.0 with a bachelor's degree and all of the core pre-health courses completed with a C or a full C or above. We point out C- is not a full C, and we have that conversation. For the SMP, a 505 or better on the MCAT is the target. With all of these things, there's some flexibility. So, for example, in the ABS, our average undergraduate overall GPA is a 3.2, but we do accept a few who are below a 3.0. We do calculate our own science GPA as would AMCAS or ACOMAS. And the reason is that there are some schools with incredibly generous course repeat or grade forgiveness policies. So we count all attempts and we recalculate the science GPA for our internal purposes. And very often it's a sobering reality for applicants when they see that that's where they are in the eyes of AMCAS. But we still work with them, and our average science GPA for the ABS is actually below a 3.0. So we can work with students in that front. A couple of other things. We want to see that evidence of their commitment, but also that ability to work in a team environment. So evidence of teamwork and leadership are important. We are a cohort system, both programs. So that ability to work with others and help each other is, particularly for the ABS, a hallmark. We do not require any type of standardized test score for the ABS certificate. And I think that somewhat fortuitously, but not unexpectedly, if you look at broader trends, this ends up greatly increasing our program diversity on any number of levels. But we're looking, again, at this package of academic potential and willingness to commit to what it takes to be successful as a contributor, a valuable contributor to healthcare in the broadest sense possible.
Okay, thank you very much. Frederick?
Yes.
You'd like to add? Yes.
So I'll add that the eligibility criteria, both programs are for a diversity program. So the TPP would go by the AAMC criteria for underrepresented in medicine, and the PrEP program goes from the criteria for NIH definition, which is in science and medicine, and includes women in math intensive careers, and also socioeconomic and disabilities, mental or physical. And so those are the main criteria, number one. Number two, as was stated, we're looking for individuals who have a determination to pursue a career in medicine or in research. And so we are looking for, even in our medical school, as many medical schools have, admit English majors.
Yes.
Right. So we're not only looking for the idea that they have had some sciences, but that they have pushed themselves towards getting to a stage that now they decide to go into medicine or graduate school, then we want to ensure they have the extra help to be able to get to that level. So those criteria, underrepresented, number one. Number two, their drive and determination through their undergrad careers towards the career that they want to pursue. Okay.
Thank you very much. And Gwyneth.
About the same. We recommend a GPA of 3.0 or higher. We don't require a test score. We require that students have taken all of the prereqs, since there's no mechanism to take undergrad classes while a graduate student. You asked for an example. I mean, one of the students, I recall, was just incredibly smart. So he had an MCAT in the 99th percentile, but a 3.6. I mean, sorry, a 2.6 GPA from an Ivy school. He came and did brilliantly, and then went to our medical school, and is where he wants to be in life. And so the holistic review really happens. I mean, it's not that there's a strict cutoff. I mean, if someone clearly has potential, we will seriously consider their application.
Okay. That's very helpful, I'm sure, for many of our listeners or people that will be listening to the program to understand how that holistic review works for all the programs. I'm going to ask the next question. Some of you have addressed it, but I want to ask it again. I phrase it as, how does your program prepare students to address diversity or inclusion in medicine or in the sciences or in the professions that they're going into? But you might also want to add in there, not only does it prepare, but how does it, or if you recruit for, if you have mentors that are involved with your students that are there to help prepare them as well. Let's just kind of start again, keep following the same thing, Susan and Jillian, and we'll keep going that way.
So John, this is actually when I need to leave.
You need to leave, okay.
So I will pass on to Jillian, and thank you very much for this opportunity.
And thank you so much for coming, Susan. Okay.
Thanks, everybody.
Yes,
Bye-bye.
Sure.
In terms of student mentorship, we have students who volunteer as ambassadors who will help us with the admissions process. We have each student in the incoming cohort provide a really brief biography of themselves, and it can be fun stuff. It is written by them, so it's honestly an autobiography, but we compile that. Students will nominate themselves or volunteer themselves to provide their email address, and we send that out to the students that we interview. So if they see somebody's story, who they really
are these medical students?
These are our current Post-Bac students.
Oh, Post-Bac, okay.
These are our current Post-Bac students, and so they can connect with somebody who's in the current Post-Bac class, and they can email and be in touch about that. This is our 15th cohort that we just welcomed this past June. And so we do have great relationships with our alums. I was on the phone with a prospective student yesterday, and he was reminding me of somebody from 2 cohorts ago. And so I gave him his email address and passed that along. So again, with a really small cohort, we do really value that student mentorship. We find that once students get into medical school, it can be a little tricky getting them to commit additional time because they simply don't have it, especially in that third year where they're doing their clinical rotations. But we do try to connect our students with alumni as much as possible in order to help them understand that they're certainly not the first person going through this process. There have been people like them who have done this before them, and it can be done.
Okay, thank you. Let's move to Monica.
Yeah, we have similarly many mentorship opportunities for students. So generally in all our 2-year programs, the second years, we match them with first-year students to help them along and, help them to adjust to the program and just get them to fit in and feel at home. We also have faculty mentors that work with students. Yeah, for the Pathway program, the alumni that are now in their first or second year in the medical school, they act as mentors, quote unquote, big sisters, big brothers, and they help those students adjust, which is helpful because of the rigor of the curriculum.
And the Pathways program, there's students that are from underrepresented in the field?
Correct, yeah, or socioeconomically disadvantaged, And they have great barriers to overcome to be successful, so they benefit a lot from these types of trips. And we have a good collaboration with our medical school, with the Office of Diversity and Inclusion. Actually, the Associate Dean is currently the Program Director of the Pathway program. So we can tap into some of their resources, which is helpful. And then also in our curricula, we try to integrate as much as possible. So we have courses where, there's discussions around healthcare disparities and representation and so on in our professionalism courses, in our bioethics courses and so on. We actually have a special course, diversity in healthcare, for one of the programs. So it is touched upon throughout the curriculum. No doubt that we want to do more, particularly with, based on recent events. We are trying to communicate with the students to see, are there any additional ways how we can support them.
Okay. I'm going to do a little shift here, so Gwyneth isn't always the last person. In case you have something you'd like to say, let's go to Gwyneth, then we'll do Frederick and Bill. Change it up like that.
Well, I appreciated that question on many levels.
Okay.
And so I thought of a few ways to answer it. And the first way is, our hospital is the safety net hospital in the city of Boston.
Mm-hmm.
So that what the students learn by volunteering at the hospital or by volunteering at Boston Healthcare for the Homeless is sometimes equally as important as what we teach them in the curriculum. Many of the physicians at BMC teach our students, come in and give clinical lectures, and they always provide patient cases
Mm-hmm.
that are, that reflect diseases that disproportionately affect underserved individuals. So the students really, it's sometimes eye-opening for students who have come from certain backgrounds, but we really try to paint a broad picture of healthcare in many forms. The other way to answer that is that we also have a very active Office of Diversity and Inclusion. And what's really nice is that it also includes the School of Public Health, which is on our campus. And they have amazing programming that our students are able to participate in. And then we actively recruit students who have backgrounds who are underrepresented in medicine. At the AAMC Minority Career Fair every year. So that I think that's an important part of the program.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's go to Frederick and then Bill.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll echo what Gwyneth said. So Baylor College of Medicine also maintains one of the hospitals, the county hospitals, which supports all the indigent care minorities there. And so the TPP program students do go through that hospital, shadow clinicians there, so they understand that. And everything surrounding health disparities with respect to gender, with respect to women's health, and so on, are all covered. And so they get a very good exposure there. The PrEP program, again, their diversity program, we have student interest groups and peer mentors who look like them.
Mm-hmm.
Whether they are African American or Hispanic or LGBTQ, both the medical school and the health professions school and graduate school, we have very strong LGBTQ cohorts, and so there's a good support peer mentoring there as well. So in general, that's what they do. And lastly, we have a very good ethics program that is in collaboration with Rice University's Department of Ethics. And they run a ethics and professionalism series, which touches all topics. And most recently, in the last 3 years, we started a Compassionate Conversations series, of which, as was recent activities with respect to race and racism, and so on. So these are activities that are very dear to many of their positions and interests, and so they all participate in that. And the mentorship and the faculty who look like them as well are very helpful, and they are mentors. So we matched everybody up, not only to their research mentors, but also with somebody of their race or ethnic background. So that's how we address diversity inclusion.
Okay, thank you. And Bill.
Okay, great. So I think the first thing that we try to do is maintain a culture and an environment of inclusiveness. And you're part of a cohort, you're part of the team, you're there to help yourself as well as each other. And by helping each other, you help yourself. We benefit from the fact that about a third to a half of our students come from the DC area, very diverse part of the country. So we build diversity immediately that way. But our recruiting efforts tap a lot of the minority recruiting fairs, et cetera, et cetera. Part of the supportive environment is, as Frederick said, having people just like me or just like you to touch base with. We have what we call supplemental faculty. These are kind of like supercharged TAs, but they're working at a faculty level. They're typically graduates of the SMP or the General Masters of Physiology, and they work with the students in the program while they themselves are in the application cycle. So they're like one step ahead of the students, and they come from a wide range of backgrounds. So there's that element of, here's someone I can talk to who's just a couple of steps ahead of me. But by virtue of developing and encouraging this very inclusive environment, we do draw a great many individuals. It goes well beyond the traditional taxonomies of the AAMC or whomever. I like to see that those from different socioeconomic backgrounds be included. I know of a great many individuals who were the product of a single family household who had strife that they had to overcome or some health issue themselves. That kind of diversity goes well beyond.
That's right.
And it's hard to capture that. But that said, we do have a fairly large population of first generation Americans and first generation college students. One of my favorite little fun facts is that we have about 20 languages spoken among the students in the class. So you're likely able to find someone who speaks your language, so to speak.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for addressing that question, because I know it's an important question that I get a lot with my advising from a broad range of applicants from all different ethnicities, backgrounds, whatever, and you'll benefit from a diverse, diversity not only training, but diverse culture when you're in these programs. And also, there are asked questions about that when you're applying to graduate professional school and PhD programs as well. So I want to make sure I put that in there. I have just a couple more questions, but one that I want to make sure we add. I was going to ask, can you talk about any financial aid and scholarship? Also with that one, if you can add in there, do you have, if you have them, linkage programs or how you get the students prepared? So it's kind of two things, linkage as well as scholarships or financial aid. And let's start with Jillian.
Sure. So with the Post-Bac pre-med program, our students are taking undergraduate courses. And so students can fill out the FAFSA and they would classify as a fifth year other. They would fill out a special form through our financial aid office, and they would be eligible for federal loans for the fall and spring semester. Okay. As we mentioned before, the program does start in the summer, and so students may need to look at other funding in terms of that summer semester. Okay. In terms of a scholarship, we do offer one scholarship. It can be either partial or full. It's called the Disner Scholarship, and it's from a family that has strong roots in the rural Appalachia areas and helping students fund their pre-med education in order to eventually practice in a rural healthcare setting. And so that is an essay-based application, getting an idea of how a student grew up, what their career goals are, that sort of thing. And we can award several scholarships depending on how those are being used for that particular year. In terms of linkage, we do have two linkage agreements, one with George Washington University School of Medicine and another with the University of Pittsburgh School of Medicine. You could not ask for two very different medical schools in terms of culture and everything else. So we do work directly with students in terms of evaluating their eligibility for one of those programs. Like with most linkage agreements, you can only apply to one medical school. So it's sort of like an early decision experience. We will work with students because they do need to work on a much earlier application timeline, getting their AMCAS application ready to go in order to apply to either one of those programs. It's also important to note that with linkage agreements, it's ultimately up to the medical school to make that admissions decision. So we will help them as much as we can, but they still need to interview with the program and ultimately be accepted there. So we honestly just have a handful of students that will choose the linkage agreement. Sometimes students really just want to play the field and see where their chances might be with multiple options rather than just putting all their eggs in one basket. But it is a really great opportunity if students have a very specific interest in one of those two schools.
Okay, thank you very much. Monica.
So
That's a big question for you, I know.
Yes. No, actually, I can answer that relatively quickly.
Okay, good.
So we unfortunately do not offer scholarships, and for our career changer program, the students typically finance it with private loans, or students, since most of them are working, sometimes they can get reimbursed by their employer for a part-time program. Our 5 master's programs are all eligible for federal financial aid, so that's usually how students finance it. And in terms of linkages, so I mentioned the Drexel pathway program for underrepresented minorities and socioeconomically disadvantaged students. So that is comes with a conditional seat at the medical school. The medical school interviews all the applicants, and once they accept them, they have a conditional seat, which they maintain tied to certain academic metrics in the program. So very typical for these arrangements. Our special masters that are cohort-based, that incorporate the medical school type coursework, they have an affiliation with the Drexel MD program in that it's a guaranteed interview tied to certain metrics. And we have all of our programs, our enhancer programs have an affiliation with Philadelphia College of Osteopathic Medicine, again, a interview opportunity based on certain metrics. Similarly with BCom, Edward Beer College of Osteopathic Medicine, and then recently we made an agreement with Touro, New York, and that covers a good of the geographic area where most of our students apply. And then for our interdisciplinary health science program, that is more varied in terms of health careers, in addition to affiliation with PCOM, they also have an agreement with Salus School of Audiology and Optometry.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. All right. Thank you. Well, you did that very well. I'm impressed.
I tried to do it.
Okay. Let's go to Gwyneth. Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, the reality of master's programs in general is that students finance them with federal loans.
Okay.
So that's the backbone of how students pay for it. We offer an increasing number of partial merit-based scholarships every year that range from $10,000 to $15,000 for some of the applicants who apply early before the money runs out, basically. But it is a sad reality that this is something I like to tell the students, think of it as a 5th year of medical school.
Mm-hmm.
We can help you get there, and that's what this is.
Yes.
So as far as the linkage, we have a very strong one with BU School of Medicine. In fact, the program was begun because the school had trouble filling the class of the medical school. So they wanted a cohort of students who were known entities who they could recruit to join the medical school class. So students are considered in a separate applicant pool from the other people who applied to BU School of Medicine. There's a separate committee that deals with their interviews and acceptances. So there's no set in stone metrics, but the majority of students receive an interview, with a solid performance.
Okay. Thank you very much. And let's go to Frederick and then Bill.
Thank you. Yeah, the TPP program, Pre-Med Academy, is linked to our medical school, so they at least guaranteed an interview. And this year, actually, the medical school increased their underrepresented population to almost a little over 30%, so they're very happy. I do not have the numbers for how many got from the TPP program, but it is linked. and I'll do linkage first. And the prep program has no official linkages, but 50% of graduates after the first year will stay at Baylor. The remaining go around the country.
Okay.
With respect to financial aid, indeed, the TPP program is a low cost. It's only $1,500 for that for the program, and that therefore many of them still need to work, but also get financial aid. For the prep program, it is NIGMS funded program, and so they are 3/4 time technicians and are funded by the grant and or by the lab that they join as a small amount of funds. So there's no linkage to graduate school, but as I said, 50% will in over the 17 years have joined Baylor.
Okay. And Bill.
Okay, so all of our programs are fully federal financial aid eligible, and most students are financing at least part of their education through loans. With regard to articulation agreements, the special master's program, again, as Monica and Gwyneth were saying, if certain metrics are reached, and sometimes they're not as clear as one might hope, but when those metrics are reached, interview is guaranteed, and about 10 to 15% of the S&P population will matriculate into the Georgetown School of Medicine each year. The one advantage they have is that they don't have to repeat those courses, since 70% of the S&P curriculum is first-year medical school courses. There are no other articulation agreements per se, but we have very strong working relations with a number of schools. We've decided against articulation agreements, largely because we see the potential for some unnecessary competition amongst students and all focus on one school rather than a broader focus. So we just decided that the upkeep wasn't really worth the loss of flexibility and the change of the dynamic. So we dropped the pursuit of such about 2 years ago.
Okay.
It is important. You want the students to find the medical school that fits them rather than just gunning for the one that happens to be in front of them.
Yeah, that's right.
Exactly.
So I just have one last quick question as we get ready to close for today. And thank you all for your information about your programs. I think it's a wonderful set of programs. Any one last tip or suggestion or something you'd like to add before we close today? Yeah, Frederick has something I to say.
I think the number one point is apply early for the early deadline.
Okay.
Take your MCAT early enough so that you can, in case you need to retake it, and make sure that all your personal statements and research statements are reviewed by faculty and colleagues, and use grammar checker. Very
okay. That's helpful. Okay. Who would like to go next? Go ahead.
I would say don't be afraid to call us. I think oftentimes there's a little bit of barrier. They're afraid to call and, ask about, I think the conversation goes a long way. And oftentimes we call students anyway once we have the material to, explore various aspects of it. And we also like to put them in touch with the current student if they really want to get the student perspective. So reach out to us to help, and we'll see if it's a good fit. And if not, then, we'll explore that way.
Okay. It's freezing up a little, so if you just have a few brief more comments for the rest of you, that's great. But I don't want to interrupt you if you have more that you'd like to say. Let's go with Bill.
So John, this is with regard to application to medical school or to our program? To medical school.
To your program. But if you have something you'd like to say, but primarily to your program, yeah.
Okay, great. No, yes, apply early, largely because you can get things like financial aid set up. We do have dorms on campus for the ABS, so access to those is somewhat restricted. We are a very, very late application deadline program. Our deadline isn't for another couple of weeks. So we don't encourage waiting until then, but we always have a late rush. So.
Okay, thank you. And then we have Gwyneth, and then we'll go Jillian at the end.
Yes, so the applying early is definitely important. The other thing I would say is that have realistic expectations, that there's a great many students that we can help, and those that we can't, we're happy to advise on what their next steps should be. Some of the emails are so touching that I really want to be a doctor, and this is my last hope. And I think I can help those students, but to have realistic expectations about the programs that you're considering.
Okay.
And there are lots of advice out there.
Okay. And there's also a variety of programs as well, too. Yeah. And Jillian.
Sure, thank you. I will echo everyone in saying applying early is definitely helpful. We do fill the class on a first come, first served basis. So we have more seats available at the beginning of the application season than at the end. And then I guess my only other piece of advice would be really know your story. As an advisor, that is my job to help you kind of figure out your story. But like I mentioned before, we need to know that you know what you're getting yourself into. So really think about why you want to do this, how you see yourself adding to the medical profession. What are you bringing to the table? That personal statement and those experiences are really important, but understanding who you are in the context of the medical field will really be helpful as we decide if you're going to be a great fit for our program.
Okay. Well, I want to take this opportunity to thank each and every one of you for your time and your expertise, for participating in not only our program, but for leading and being involved in the programs in which you lead to prepare our the next generation of professionals going forward. And for those of you listening to the panel, thank you for listening to the panel. Hopefully you learned a lot. I know I did today, but not only about the types of details about these particular programs, but I think if you listen, you'll start hearing a lot about different characteristics that they're looking for, as well as hopefully you'll start seeing how a post-bac program or something like this might be helpful to you as you get ready to move yourself forward in your career and prepare to develop your confidence as you move forward. So thank you very much for everyone for attending, and good luck to you.